I never thought I'd find myself rummaging through my husband's gym bag like a detective, but here we are. My husband, Mike, and I met through our shared love for hiking, and our relationship blossomed quickly. We were adventurous and seemed to be on the same wavelength. For the first few years, everything felt perfect. But as life settled into a routine of work and bills, I began to notice unsettling things. A late night at the office here, a missed call from an unknown number there. At first, I brushed them off as paranoia. Things unraveled when Mike took up running. I was happy for him. It was a healthy outlet. However, his Saturday morning runs soon stretched into long afternoons. He came home smelling of cheap cologne that wasn't his usual scent, leaving me feeling uneasy. I tried to ignore it, focusing on my own commitments, work, family, life. But one Sunday, at the local coffee shop, I overheard a conversation. I spotted Mike at a corner table, laughing too loudly with a woman I didn't recognize. Their energy felt electric, sending chills down my spine. My heart sank. I tried to convince myself she was just a running buddy. Things took a darker turn when I noticed discrepancies in our bank statements. Random charges appeared. One for a hotel I didn't recognize, another for a restaurant I was sure we hadn't visited. One night over dinner, I confronted him about the hotel charge. He shrugged it off, claiming it was a work event, but I sensed a shift in his demeanor, the tightening of his jaw and his sudden loss of interest in his food. I continued to dig, trying to connect the dots. I casually mentioned my concerns to a friend who lived near Mike's gym. Days later, she casually dropped a bombshell. She'd seen him leaving the gym with the same woman from the coffee shop. My heart raced as I fought to keep my composure. I was spiraling in a sea of emotions: anger, confusion, heartbreak. That night, I confronted Mike, my heart pounding. I laid out everything: the late nights, the strange smells, the bank charges, and the eyewitness account. He went pale, his face shifting from shock to indignation as he insisted it was all a misunderstanding. "You're being paranoid," he snapped, defensiveness washing over him. I wanted to scream, to shake him until he admitted the truth. But instead, self-doubt washed over me. Was I really losing it? Was I just overreacting? The conversation spiraled into blame and anger. I told him how much I loved him, how I tried to support him, but all he could do was deflect. "You're imagining things. You know I would never cheat on you," he said, but his eyes shifted away. It felt like watching a magician perform a trick, bewildering and confusing. After days of sleepless nights filled with tears, I made a decision. I couldn't stay in a relationship that felt like a trap. I moved out to my sister's place. The pain was unbearable, and the heartbreak was palpable. I felt betrayed, like I had been slapped in the face by someone I trusted. Friends rallied around me, offering support, but even their kind words felt like Band-Aids on a wound that wouldn't heal. The divorce process was a blur of paperwork, but I took solace in reclaiming my life. It was terrifying, and I felt alone, but I knew I had to prioritize my mental health. Each passing day, I began to rebuild myself, peeling back layers of hurt and finding joy in small things. Reflecting on this painful chapter, I want to share advice for anyone in a similar situation. Trust your instincts. When something feels off, don't dismiss it. Investigate. The truth might hurt, but living in uncertainty hurts even more. I learned that love isn't just about good times. It's about trust, respect, and honesty. It took time, but I found resilience in my brokenness and learned to value myself more than I ever did with him. It was a painful journey, but one that ultimately led me to a stronger version of myself. I never thought I'd question everything about my marriage, but here we are.
My husband, Tom, and I had what I believed was a solid relationship. We'd been together for almost 8 years, and while we had our ups and downs, the foundation felt strong. Until it didn't. At first, it was subtle. He started coming home late from work more often, claiming he was busy with projects. I shrugged it off, convincing myself the tech startup life demanded dedication. But then I noticed he had a new cologne, one I had never smelled before, and his gym schedule shifted. He used to go 3 times a week, but now it was almost daily, often late at night. I tried to ignore my suspicions, telling myself he was just trying to get fit. The turning point came on a Wednesday evening. I was cleaning up the kitchen after dinner when I overheard him on the phone. I caught snippets of laughter and teasing and a voice I didn't recognize. My heart raced. It was unusual for him to be so lighthearted. I reminded myself it could easily be a client, but a gnawing feeling took root. The more I thought about it, the more I noticed little details that didn't add up. He was suddenly more meticulous about his appearance, spending longer in the bathroom, and his phone was always face down, a habit he never had before. Then there were the financial aspects. I saw charges on our credit card statement for a restaurant I had never heard of, along with gas charges at odd hours. When I asked him, he brushed me off, saying it was just late-night brainstorming sessions. I felt uneasy, but wanted to believe him. One Friday night, a friend invited me to a local art exhibit. While mingling, I ran into someone from Tom's office. We struck up a conversation, and I casually mentioned Tom's late hours. The woman's smile faded, and she hesitated before saying, "Oh, I didn't know he was still with you. I thought he was dating someone else." My breath caught, and the world around me blurred. The conversation spiraled into disbelief and cold sweat. I asked for more details, but she quickly excused herself. That night, I confronted Tom. The tension was palpable. I questioned him about the woman at the exhibit and the late nights. He laughed it off, claiming it was just office gossip and that he was simply too dedicated to work. But the look in his eyes was defensive. The more I pressed, the angrier he became, accusing me of paranoia. Each denial shattered my heart, and every lie cut deeper. The emotional fallout was suffocating. I felt like a puppet, floating in a haze of betrayal and disbelief. I spent sleepless nights ruminating, piecing together fragments of our life, examining everything through a lens of doubt. I cried alone, feeling lost and questioning my own worth as if trapped in a whirlwind of self-doubt. Eventually, my resolve hardened. I reached out to a couple of friends who were supportive and had noticed changes in Tom's behavior too. With their encouragement, I hired a private investigator to confirm my fears. The investigator's report was a gut punch. Multiple sightings of Tom with the same woman at various locations over the past 3 months. I knew then I had to take action. When I finally told Tom I was moving out, he turned on the charm, trying to manipulate me into believing I was overreacting. "You'll ruin everything," he warned. But it was too late. I had seen through the facade, and the love I once felt was replaced with a strong sense of self-preservation. I filed for divorce shortly after, feeling a sense of empowerment I hadn't expected. As I sit here now, reflecting on the past few months, I realize how much I've grown. This experience has been painful, but has taught me resilience. If you suspect something is off, trust your instincts. Don't let love blind you to the truth. Surround yourself with supportive people who will help you navigate the storm. Life is too short to settle for anything less than honesty and love. While I may have lost a part of my past, I'm slowly reclaiming my future, and it feels strong.
I never thought I'd be the woman who finds her husband cheating. Yet, here I am, sharing my story. It's raw, real, and still feels unreal. My husband Daniel and I had what I believed was a strong marriage. We met in college, fell in love over shared dreams and late-night talks, and built a life together filled with hopes and aspirations. We'd been married for 7 years, had 2 beautiful kids, and life seemed good. At least, that's what I thought. It started with subtle red flags that I brushed off. He began working late more frequently, claiming he had a big project. I noticed he was protective of his phone, often taking calls in another room and laughing too hard at jokes I wasn't privy to. One evening, while clearing dishes, I caught a whiff of an unfamiliar perfume on his shirt. I told myself it was just a work event, a colleague's scent, and pushed the uncomfortable feeling aside. Things shifted when I overheard a conversation at a friend's birthday party. I was too far to hear everything, but snippets like, "I can't believe he's still married," sent my heart racing. Later, when I casually brought it up to Daniel, he dismissed it as gossip. I wanted to believe him, but self-doubt crept in. One morning, while reconciling our finances for a family trip, I noticed strange discrepancies in our bank statements. There were charges for dinners at fancy restaurants I hadn't heard of, and even charges at a boutique I knew he'd never visit. My gut twisted, but I tried to stay rational. Perhaps it was a work expense he forgot to mention. I decided to dig deeper. I asked around subtly to see if anyone had seen Daniel out and about. A friend mentioned seeing him at a cafe with a woman who looked familiar. The way she described her made my heart sink, as it matched someone I'd seen in Daniel's work photos, someone I thought was just a colleague. The moment of truth came when I found a receipt from that boutique stuffed in his gym bag. I felt sick. My mind raced, but the clarity was undeniable. This wasn't a coincidence. When Daniel got home, I confronted him, trembling with emotions. "What's going on, Daniel?" I asked, my voice shaking. He looked surprised, his eyes darting away. "What do you mean?" he stammered. I laid it all out, the late nights, the strange charges, the whispers. I expected denial, but he didn't defend himself. Instead, he became defensive, turning my questions back on me. "You're being paranoid," he said, raising his voice. "I work hard for this family." My heart sank deeper as I realized he wasn't even going to deny it. I pushed harder, demanding the truth. Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, he admitted to having feelings for someone else, claiming it was just an emotional affair that never went physical. I felt the room spin. The world I had built was crumbling, and I was powerless to stop it. Shock morphed into fury as I processed his words. "You feel for her? You think that's okay?" I yelled, tears streaming down my face. I felt shattered and angry, and in that moment, I doubted everything I had ever known about our love. I stormed out, building walls around my heart to protect myself. In the days that followed, the emotional fallout was suffocating. I felt betrayed, lost, and incredibly lonely. My friends rallied around me, offering support. The children noticed something was off between us, and that hurt more than anything. I had to think about their happiness amid the chaos of my heart. As for Daniel, he insisted he wanted to work on our marriage, but I sensed the trust was irreparably damaged. I finally decided to separate. There wasn't a singular moment of clarity when I decided to file for divorce, but rather a collection of moments that led me there. I realized I deserved more than empty apologies and promises. Fast forward a few months, and the divorce was finalized. I moved out, started fresh in a small apartment with the kids, and began to rediscover who I was outside of being a wife. The healing process was long and painful, but every day felt like a step toward reclaiming my life. If there's one thing I want everyone to take away from my story, it's this. Trust your gut. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. Communicate openly, and don't be afraid to ask hard questions. Love should feel safe, not like a constant state of fear and self-doubt. You deserve honesty and respect, and if those things are gone, sometimes the hardest decision leads to the best outcome. Healing takes time, but you can come out stronger on the other side.